There's a truth most people spend their whole lives running from. The harder you chase what you want, the job, the peace, the relationship, the version of yourself you've been trying to become, the more it slips through your fingers. You lie awake at night, replaying everything you said, everything you didn't say, every opportunity that passed you by. You wake up exhausted before the day even begins, and nobody tells you why. Nobody tells you that the exhaustion is not from trying too hard, it's from trying wrong. The Stoics discovered something almost 2,000 years ago that modern psychology is only now beginning to prove. That the mind, when left unsettled, when trained on everything it cannot control, becomes the very thing that blocks everything it desires. And that the secret to attracting more, building more, becoming more, is not found in pushing harder. It is found in something far more radical. It is found in stillness. Marcus Aurelius, a man who ruled an empire, led armies, buried children, and carried unimaginable weight, wrote this in Meditations. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength. He was not weak, he was not passive. He was possibly the most powerful man alive in his time, and yet he built his entire existence on one foundational belief, that the mind, trained and quieted, is the most magnetic force in the universe. Today we are going into that. 7 lessons, not just ideas, but actual shifts that will change how you move through the world. And by the end of this, you won't just understand why relaxing your mind is the key to manifesting everything you want. You'll know exactly how to do it. Before we get into it, if this kind of wisdom is what you're here for, hit subscribe. It takes 1 second and it means you'll never miss what we put out next. Now let's begin. Number 1, silence the storm inside first. Most people think manifestation is about desire, about wanting something badly enough that the universe responds. But here is what they miss. Desire is loud, and the universe does not respond to noise, it responds to clarity. Think about a glass of muddy water. No matter how hard you shake it, it stays murky. You cannot see through it. But when you set it down, when you stop disturbing it, the mud settles. And suddenly, the water is clear. Your mind works exactly the same way. When you are anxious, racing, constantly consumed by what you want and what you don't yet have, your mind is that shaken glass. You cannot see clearly. You cannot hear your own instincts. You cannot make the decisions that would actually move you forward. And so you stay stuck, not because life isn't working for you, but because your mind is too noisy to notice the doors that are already open. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." He was not talking about silence as the absence of sound. He was talking about the discipline of turning the volume down on panic, comparison, and urgency. He practiced it every single morning before the court, before the demands of the empire, before anyone could pull him in a direction. He would sit, he would write, he would return to the center of himself. And this is the first lesson. Before you can attract anything you want, you must first stop flooding your own signal with fear. Silence is not laziness, it is preparation. It is the act of clearing the channel through which everything you desire will eventually flow. Start small. 5 minutes in the morning, before you check your phone, before you open your messages, before the world pours in. Just sit, breathe, let the mud settle. Because what becomes clear in that silence will do more for your life than 100 desperate decisions made from panic. Number 2, stop forcing doors that were never meant for you. Here is a question nobody asks enough. What if the thing you're chasing isn't actually what you need? What if the relentless tension you feel is not you failing, but life redirecting? The Stoics believed deeply in something called Amor, fate, love of fate. Not passive resignation, not giving up, but the radical acceptance that what is unfolding for a reason, and that your resistance to it is costing you far more than you know. Epictetus, who was born a slave and became one of the greatest philosophers in history, taught this. Seek not that the things which happen should happen as you wish, but wish the things which happen to be as they are, and you will have a tranquil flow of life. Think about that. He wasn't saying don't have ambition. He was saying, align your desire with reality instead of waging war on it. Here's how this plays out in real life. You've been pushing for a particular outcome, maybe a relationship, a career move, a deal, a result, and it just won't open. You knock, you wait, you knock again. And every refusal makes you more desperate, which makes you push harder, which closes the door even further. That's not bad luck, that's resistance. That's you forcing a door that has no handle on your side. The moment you step back, not in defeat, but in trust, something remarkable happens. You suddenly notice the doors that are slightly ajar. The doors you walked past 100 times because you were too focused on the one that wouldn't open. Marcus Aurelius put it simply. Accept the things to which fate binds you. Not because you have no power, but because acceptance frees your energy to be spent on what actually matters. And that energy, focused, clear, unobstructed, becomes the most powerful force you can direct toward your life. Number 3, train your attention like a weapon. What you consistently give your attention to is what grows in your life. This is not mysticism, this is neuroscience. It is also, as it turns out, ancient Stoic wisdom. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The things you think about determine the quality of your mind." He understood that attention is not passive. It is not something that just happens to you. It is something you wield, or something that wields you. And most people, without realizing it, have handed the weapon to their fears. Think about your average day. How many times does your mind drift toward what's wrong, toward what's missing, toward the threat, the lack, the comparison that makes you feel behind? Every time that happens, you are not just having a thought, you are planting a seed. And you are choosing unconsciously, but still choosing, what harvest you will eventually walk through. The Stoics practiced what we might today call intentional attention. They called it porche, a Greek term meaning self-attention or watchfulness of the mind. It meant pausing throughout the day and asking, what am I focused on right now? And is this worthy of my mind? Here is the practice. Every time you catch yourself spiraling into what you lack, what hasn't happened yet, what could go wrong, pause. Don't fight the thought, just redirect. Ask yourself, what is actually true right now? What is already working? What is one thing I can do, just one, that moves me forward? That redirection, done consistently, rewires everything. You begin to notice opportunities you were too distracted to see. You begin to move with a confidence that comes not from having everything figured out, but from trusting your own capacity to navigate whatever comes. And that energy, grounded, focused, unhurried, is magnetic. It draws toward you the very things that panic always pushes away. Number 4, face your fears before they face you. This one might surprise you. Because we're told constantly to think positively, to visualize success, to put good things into the universe and expect good things back. But the Stoics took a different approach. And it worked. They practiced what Marcus Aurelius called premeditation malform, the premeditation of evils. Before an important day, an important decision, an important relationship, they would sit quietly and imagine in full detail what could go wrong. Not to terrify them, not to predict failure, but to neutralize the power that fear held over them. Because here is the thing about unexamined fear. It doesn't stay quiet, it leaks into everything. It shapes your decisions without you knowing it. It keeps you from saying what you need to say, going where you need to go, becoming who you are capable of becoming. Fear left in the dark grows enormous. But fear looked at directly, it almost always shrinks. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "How much more grievous are the consequences of anger than the causes of it." The same is true of fear. We suffer so much more from imagining the thing than from the thing itself. When you sit with your worst-case scenario and ask honestly, could I survive this? Could I recover? Could I find my footing again? The answer almost always is yes. And once you know that, once the fear has been examined and found to be survivable, you are free. Free to act without the anchor of dread. Free to move toward what you want without constantly looking over your shoulder. This is how the Stoics built unshakable confidence. Not by pretending fear didn't exist, but by meeting it honestly and discovering that they were larger than it. Try this tonight. Write down the thing you are most afraid of right now. Then ask, if this happened, what would I do? You might be surprised how capable you already are. Number 5, become the person, not just the goal. Here's where most people get manifestation completely backwards. They focus entirely on the thing they want. The money, the recognition, the relationship, the body, the success. They visualize it, they journal about it, they hold it in their mind, and none of it moves. Because the question is never, how do I get the thing? The question is always, who do I need to become for the thing to naturally appear? Marcus Aurelius understood this so deeply, it shaped every line of the Meditations. He wasn't writing about what he wanted to achieve, he was writing about who he wanted to be. A good man, a just ruler, a patient father, someone whose actions matched his values. He knew that if he became that person fully, consistently, without compromise, the results would take care of themselves. Epictetus agreed. He taught that the only true property a human being has is their character. Not their possessions, not their status, not what the world has given or taken from them. Just the quality of their soul. Think about the kind of person who already has what you're seeking. Not the circumstances, the character. Do they move with calm and patience, or with anxiety and urgency? Do they act from a place of abundance or scarcity? Do they keep their word, even when no one is watching? Do they maintain their standards when it would be easier to lower them? That is the gap. Not between you and the outcome, between you and the version of yourself who naturally produces that outcome. So the practice is this. Every morning before you pursue the goal, pursue the identity. Ask, what would the person I am becoming do today? How would they handle this conversation, this setback, this opportunity? Then do that, not perfectly, not all at once, but consistently. Because the version of you that becomes that person will find that the goals were never the point. They were always just the natural byproduct of who you chose to be. Number 6, rest is not weakness, it is strategy. We have been lied to about rest. We live in a world that worships the grind. That celebrates exhaustion as evidence of commitment. That makes you feel guilty for sleeping, for pausing, for taking a breath before charging forward again. The Stoics knew better. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. but I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own. What is remarkable about that passage is not just the philosophy. It is the fact that it was written in the morning. He was preparing. He was restoring himself before the storm. Because he understood that you cannot give from an empty place. You cannot think clearly when you are depleted. You cannot make good decisions when your nervous system is running on empty. The most effective people in history were not the ones who worked the longest. They were the ones who protected their energy with the same discipline they applied to their effort. They knew when to push and when to withdraw, when to output and when to receive. That rhythm, exertion followed by restoration, is not laziness. It is the natural pulse of all sustainable growth. A bow held taut forever eventually snaps. A bow released, rested, then drawn again, that is the bow that hits its mark. So here is the practice. Build real rest into your life, not scrolling, not a distraction. Actual rest, nature, silence, reflection, sleep. Protect it fiercely. Because when you return to your work, your relationships, your craft, you will return not as the same tired person, but as someone restored. Someone with new eyes. Someone whose clarity, that rested, uncluttered clarity, can see what panic never could. And that clarity is worth more than any extra hour you could have pushed through. Number 7, build your inner citadel. Everything we have talked about today, the silence, the acceptance, the attention, the identity, they are all bricks in something the Stoics call the inner citadel. Marcus Aurelius returned to this image again and again. The idea that within every human being there is a place that cannot be touched by circumstance. Not by failure, not by rejection, not by loss, not by what anyone thinks or says or does. A fortress of the mind that once built makes you genuinely, not superficially, not performatively unshakable. He wrote, "Confine yourself to the present, because it is only in the present that the citadel can be built, not to worry about the future, not in regret about the past. Right here, right now, in how you choose to think, to act, to respond." And here is the extraordinary thing about that citadel. It doesn't just protect you, it attracts things to you. When you are genuinely rooted, when you are not blown by every wind of opinion, not crushed by every setback, not desperate for any single outcome to validate your worth, people feel it. Opportunities sense it. Life organizes itself differently around someone who has that kind of grounded. Because that is what calm confidence really is. It is not the absence of challenge. It is the presence of someone who has built themselves deeply enough to know they can handle whatever comes. Epictetus, who lost his freedom as a young man and spent years as a slave, said this: "It is not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." He built his citadel in the worst conditions a human being can face, and it made him one of the most influential voices in all of Western philosophy. Your conditions do not determine your citadel. Your choices do. And every time you choose clarity over panic, purpose over desperation, stillness over noise, you add another brick. You build another wall. You become a little more of the person who doesn't need to chase what they want, because everything they need has learned to find them. So there they are, 7 lessons, 7 shifts. All of them pointing to the same place. Relax your mind. Not because nothing matters, but because the things that truly matter can only come to you when the noise settles enough for you to see them. Marcus Aurelius understood this. He didn't build an empire by grasping and forcing and performing. He built it by returning daily to a quiet place inside himself and leading from there. And that is what this philosophy offers you, not as a theory but as a practice. Something you can begin today, this morning, in the next 5 minutes. You are already closer to what you want than you think. You just need to stop drowning it out with noise. If this video found you at the right moment, if something in it landed, hit subscribe. There is more where this came from, and there is another video on screen right now that will take you even deeper. Stay with the wisdom, it builds. And so will you.